You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Daw, and on today's episode of Locked On Kentucky After Dark, if you're watching this live stream, going to be discussing the latest surrounding Jasper Johnson's recruitment. We had some really interesting things happen here over the course of the evening, and I figured why not go live and break this down here with you guys tonight. Thank you so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. I want to remind everyone out there that we are free and available on all platforms. If you're watching on YouTube, I would greatly appreciate it if you subscribe to the show. And if you're listening on podcast, I would also appreciate it if you subscribed there as well. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. Probably not going to be a ton of you here considering it's 1 a.m. Eastern, but we're going to talk here a little bit about what's going on with Johnson and his recruitment. As I mentioned earlier, Travis Branham of 24/7 Sports logged a crystal ball prediction for Johnson to end up committing to Kentucky. There have been a couple of different things posted online from Coach David Sisk, from KSR, confirming that it looks like Kentucky is going to end up getting Jasper's commitment. Now, I want to make a couple of things very clear here right off the bat. This is by no means over. At no point, I think, over the next few days until he announces that he is committing, can we say that this is officially in the bag and the deal is done. But as of right now, I think we have a lot of reason to be excited and to be positive about where this could potentially be trending. So again, like I mentioned, Branham submitting a crystal ball for the Wildcats to land Johnson. I believe KSR had a couple of insiders submit a prediction over on On3 for Jasper to land at UK as well. Really, really exciting stuff. I actually had an episode that was about to air breaking down why I believed that Johnson would be just the perfect recruit for Pope to pick up at the beginning of his Kentucky basketball career for a variety of reasons, whether that be his frame, whether that be his shooting, whether that be how he plays on the court. There are a lot of different things about Johnson's game that really do make you excited about what he could potentially bring to the table for Pope. I believe that he is just an absolutely perfect prospect. Johnson rated as the number 10 overall player in the 2025 recruiting class, number 2 point guard in the country, top 5 player in the state of Georgia as well, playing for OT Elite. In case you missed it, we've got a couple of different recruits that Kentucky is going after. Tay Kenny, one of them being playing for OT Elite, transferring over to play for OT Elite. Both Johnson and Kenny actually originally Kentucky prospects, originally players in the state of Kentucky playing ball there. Both of them will be playing in Atlanta. This could potentially be incredible. This could potentially be just awesome for the Wildcats to be able to get this 5-star prospect. Again, like I mentioned, a couple of people submitting a crystal ball prediction for the Cats to end up landing him. Evelyn in the chat says, I'll believe it when he announces. And I'm kind of sitting here as well, just kind of nervous. Obviously, this has been a roller coaster of news behind the scenes when it comes to rumors, when it comes to what's actually going to end up happening with Johnson. A lot of things that have kind of come back and forth as to whether or not he's going to Alabama or he's going to North Carolina or he's going to Kentucky. There's been a lot of conversation about how impactful NIL is in this conversation, whether or not Kentucky wants to give the money, whether or not Bama does, whether or not UNC does, how much money is actually being discussed on the table. Lots of different things going back and forth, up and down the roller coaster we go. But here we are now, according to Branham, according to various other sources, it could be coming to a close. David Sisk, I'm not sure if this is from Rivals, but somebody posted the screenshot on Twitter. So if you're upset about this being behind a paywall originally and me discussing it here live on the channel, this was posted to Twitter. I don't know if it actually came from Rivals. Regardless, from a paywall behind Rivals, I should say. But according to David Sisk, he said this: My source, who is very knowledgeable about the whole thing, has stayed with the Tide for good reason. Some of the very connected national media guys have agreed with him, and I think I've heard similar news from their sources. But he told me for the first time just a few minutes ago. It's Kentucky based on what I'm hearing. He just texted me again as I write this and said it's done to Kentucky. Again, I don't want to say anything confirmed here that we've got this in the bag, but everything is pointing towards the Wildcats ending up getting their first 5-star prospect of the Mark Pope era, and what an incredible one it could potentially be here. Really appreciate you guys in the chat, by the way, tuning in. If you've got any questions about Johnson, about the recruiting class, about Kentucky basketball, I mean, we're just kind of sitting here. It's 1:22 on the East Coast right now. I am a night owl by nature, so it's kind of easy for me to get up here and kind of live stream and talk to you guys, but I know it's super late. I appreciate all you guys tuning in, kind of getting some info as to what's happening with Johnson. I just wanted to be able to hop on here real quick and break down kind of what we are hearing. Again, racking up recruiting predictions. Jacob Polachek, who we had on the show here just a couple of weeks ago, rivals Jordan Harper, Jackson Collier, again, Travis Branham, Aaron Gershon of Cat's Paws. We've had him on the show before. Lots of recruiting guys all trending towards the same direction. Number 1 point guard, according to some sources. Number 2 point guard, according to 24/7 Sports. Top 15 consensus prospect here with Johnson. Just an incredible scorer. Gifted athlete, 6'4", 180 pounds. There has been some debate as to whether or not he should play combo guard, as to whether or not he should play point, as to whether or not he should play the two exclusively. I've continued to maintain on the show here, I think that he should play shooting guard exclusively. At least that's kind of been my stance. I've always thought that he works better off ball, or at least he looks like he works better off ball. Whenever you go and watch his tape, he really does move around well and is able to kind of pick and choose his spots pretty effectively. Great shooter, confident scorer. That's really what you're looking for here. I compared him on a show that's not even aired yet. That's going to actually be popping up, I guess, tomorrow morning. I guess I've continued to compare him to, not in terms of stature or how he played at his previous stop, but I've continued to say, look, Jasper may end up filling the Jackson Robinson role, so to speak, in coming years for Kentucky, as far as just being a pure scorer that can do a little bit of everything. He can rebound a little bit, he can pass a little bit, but he's going to be playing that 2 or that 3 guard spot, and he's going to be playing off ball, and he's going to be asked to do one thing. It's going to be able to drive inside, finish in the lane, and then score from beyond the arc. And Johnson, southpaw, left-handed guy, a little bit of an awkward shot, but it goes in, and he's very confident taking it. So I love this potential pickup for Kentucky. Again, multiple people kind of laying this out now that the Wildcats are going to end up winning this race over the Alabama Crimson Tide and the North Carolina Tar Heels. Just an incredible few weeks here for Kentucky basketball recruiting after picking up number 1 center Malachi Marino. Apparently, Eric Ryby is still in the conversation here, which is just really interesting. The fact that he's able to still be here, possibly to play alongside Marino. We'll kind of keep an eye on that. Braylon Mullins, somebody else that Kentucky's looking at heavily. Tunde Yesufu, we talked about those two guys on a show recently. Braylon, arguably the best shooter in next year's class. Yesufu, I have not seen a single high school prospect play more passionately than he does. His energy, his desire to win, the rebounding, the physicality, and you were starting to blend together a lot of really, really high-profile players. High floor, number 1 overall center. Potentially, here in the coming days, a top 10 player, the best in your state, 5-star prospect who could have been potentially pulled away to 2 other major universities. You could potentially get the best shooter in next year's class, and you could get a dog at your wing spot. May not be the best shooter, but somebody that I think you will learn to utilize in a variety of ways: defense, passing, rebounding, etc. You're getting all of these different guys that are good at different things. I really do hope that Pope's first class is it starts off with a bang, right? If you're able to get Johnson here, and I don't know how quickly this could happen. I don't know if this is going to happen tomorrow. I don't know if it's going to happen Monday. I don't even know if it's going to happen until late next week, right? As I'm recording this, it is now 1:27 Eastern on Friday, August 23rd, 2024. We'll see how it goes, but I'm thrilled about it. Anybody in the comments below, if you want to sound off let me know what you think here as we kind of wind down. I didn't want to hop on for too long. I just want to wanted to pop in here and kind of break this down. And I know, and I said earlier, David Sisk's comments, I don't know if they were behind a paywall or not. I do know that KSR has some information behind a paywall that I won't just run on here and spoil for you, but I will confirm that a lot of people are now saying with confidence that Kentucky is the leader to at least land this commitment. Now, is it going to definitively happen? Like David Sisk's source said, again, I don't want to sit here and say, oh, it's in the bag, but I think we can start talking as if that is very much so the possibility here. I appreciate you guys on Twitter who have been responding to me, engaging with me, DMing me, talking about these different things. I'm super excited about the direction of everything with Pope and company. I was talking with a friend tonight about the schedule, about how there's all these different recruits that Mark Pope and Kentucky are going after. I'm pretty sure he's in the chat right now. Appreciate you tuning in, Luke, if you're still here. But this is incredible. This is incredible. The fact that you're able to kind of start to build here. And that was the fear. I know I keep saying the same thing over and over, just about how excited I am. That was the fear. When Mark Pope was first hired, there was a lot of concern about how things would go. Can he recruit? Can he do things well in the transfer portal? Can he win games? And so far, he's checked 2 of those boxes. Can he recruit in the transfer portal? Yeah, he kind of had to. And he got some really, really good players, in my opinion, to fill up this year's roster and some of next year's roster as well. Can he recruit? Well, he got the number 1 overall center, and now he's on the verge of landing one of the best guards in next year's class. So yeah, I would say that he's starting to fill in that checkbox. Now, the final question we have: can Kentucky win? Can they win with Pope? Can they win with the guys that they bring in? We won't know if he can win with Jasper until next fall, until next winter, which is going to be a super long wait, but to wait to see this kid in Kentucky blue and white if he does end up committing. But I think it's going to be pretty fun. I said it, again, the episode has not aired. The episode has not aired yet. But I said on what will now be Friday's episode that I do truly believe Jasper does end up committing. You could see him lead Kentucky in scoring next year. And I know we've had a lot of conversations about Kentucky one-and-dones, how the previous regime managed rosters, managed rotations. I hope that Jasper is a multi-year player. And I don't mean that by saying, hey, I hope that he struggles just enough as his freshman year where he has to come back for a second year. I hope he does phenomenal if he does end up coming to Kentucky. And I hope that he's able to carry that into a second season with the Wildcats. Tyler England tuning in from Middlesboro, Kentucky. JJ Sneed, super hyped in the chat as well. Appreciate you guys tuning in. About 30 to 40 of you here in the chat. Again, it's 1 in the morning, so almost getting closer to 2 in the morning now. So I appreciate all of you kind of checking this out, seeing what's going on with the Cats. So yeah, just let me know what you think in the comments below. Big time possible get for the Wildcats. Just to recap, you've got a 5-star prospect that has received multiple crystal balls all at once to go play for the Kentucky Wildcats over the Alabama Crimson Tide and the North Carolina Tar Heels. Big time. Big time for Mark Pope. So that's going to do it for tonight's edition of Locked On Kentucky. Appreciate you guys tuning in to the After Dark. Just want to let you guys know I've got an episode coming out probably mid-morning, maybe closer to noon, possibly, breaking down why I believe that Johnson is the perfect commit for Mark Pope and the Cats. Also going to be breaking down some more questions about Kentucky basketball schedule. So appreciate you guys tuning in. That's going to do it for tonight's episode of Locked On Kentucky. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On UK. You can follow me on Twitter at LanceDaw_ and follow the show over on Instagram as at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, leave those in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I will see you all just a few hours for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day or evening. And God bless.